since he still restrained from parading himself as the national officer of Labour Party. Unfortunately, the National Executive Council, NEC, which is the highest organ of our party, in its meeting held in Bauchi on the 3rd of May 2023, further suspended Abure and some other members of the party for attending an illegal NEC meeting purportedly called by Julius Abure, while the restraining order of the FCTI court was still subsisting, and which is still subsisting till today. The implication of the suspension of Abure by National Executive Council in Bauchi make today's judgment a mockery and a mere academic exercise, as NEC, which is the highest organ of the party, has already suspended Abure and his cohort, and NEC are not parties to the suit in Edo State, as it was just between the World Executive and Julius Abure. Simply put, by the virtue of the restraining order of the FCI court, which is yet to be vacated or set aside, Abure remained restrained and suspended from the party. Also, by virtue of the non-suspension of Abure, pursuant to his power under Article 13(2) B(4) of the Labour Party Constitution in Bauchi, Abure remains suspended. And also, you are all aware that on May 12 in Abuja here, the FCT High Court revalidated and said the order suspending Abure and the order restraining him still remain in force. And we have a witness in person of Alex Ejeteme, SAN, who was Abure's lawyer in that court. Immediately after that judgment was delivered, where the court restrained Abure, Abure filed an appeal before the Court of Appeal in Abuja. It is therefore shocking and a surprise, if not for a mockery to our judiciary structure, for a man who has filed an appeal over his suspension, over the restraining order in Abuja Court of Appeal, she goes to Benin and he will here be celebrating a judgment of an high court. The question begging for answer is this: is Edo State High Court now an appellate court that will determine a matter that was yet to be determined in the Court of Appeal in Abuja? I felt it is necessary to set this record straight that Abure himself was the one that appealed that judgment of May, the ruling of May 12, where the court sustained the order restraining him and restraining the former National Secretary, restraining the former National Organizing Secretary, that's Clement Ojukwu, and restraining the former National Treasurer. And they have appealed the judgment into the Court of Appeal, which is yet to be heard. He also filed motion for stay of proceeding. He went about last week that Court of Appeal are reinstated in. If Court of Appeal are reinstated in, what is the jubilation about an Edo State High Court that has also now said they are, returning Abure to office? It just marks, some form of responsibility on the part of Abure and his media, cohort. But we are letting the public know that that matter is pending before Court of Appeal in Abuja, and no junior court can adjudicate over any matter before an higher court. I stand not to be corrected on this, that a matter pending before a Court of Appeal cannot be discussed at any lower court again. So therefore, whatever judgment they are celebrating is just a mockery of the judicial sector, to which we are not going to join issue with them. But to at least set the record straight, because of what they have done, our lawyer today filed motion for stay of execution and also filed an appeal in the Court of Appeal, Benin City. So that at least we will not be able to put into proper perspective the kind of judgment that a judge will sit on top of a matter that is pending before Court of Appeal and which is quite aware. But even if my Lord is not aware, with due respect, we are saying it today that my Lord, that matter is pending before Court of Appeal Abuja, and therefore no junior court can sit over a matter pending before a superior court in a constitution, except otherwise Abure want to manufacture the constitution of Nigeria in line with Abure dynasty from Uromi, Edo State, Federal Republic of Nigeria, which I know it cannot stand the test of time. Abure himself and Mr. Alex Ijeteme, SCN, is aware that he was the one that filed notice of appeal in Abuja. He was supposed to at least guide Abure, because I know SCN studied law, but Abure read law by, what he's trying to do now, because he doesn't seem to understand the rudiment of law. But the people that study law, like Mr. Alex Ijeteme, SCN, ought to have at least provide a guide for him to tell him that once we have submitted ourselves to the Court of Appeal, every junior court has ceased from discussing that matter. Every junior court. And an appellate court is a superior court in our constitution. Supreme Court is superior to Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal is superior to any federal court or state high court. State high court does not have the same concurrent jurisdiction like Court of Appeal. And Court of Appeal does not have any concurrent jurisdiction with the Supreme Court. But for this bent note to Abure, who only read law, because we can read newspaper from today to tomorrow, you will forget what you read and you go to the other one. But for those that study law, that are, on the payroll of Abure, they need to guide him that when you file any matter before the Court of Appeal, you cannot go to any lower court and be celebrating any form of judgment. And like I said, I stand not to be collected on it because this is the position of the law.
Will you petition?
My Lord that gave to in Edo doesn't have that fault. It was Abure, Mr. Alex Ijeteme, SAN, and co. that actually suppresses fact before him.
Oh, the judgment from Edo State High Court. Well, like we've been aware, we learned that there was a judgment today from the Edo State High Court. And I was surprised that some person have been celebrating. And I asked myself, what are they celebrating, or what is there to be celebrating? Well, you will not really blame them for probably celebrating. The celebration is born out of ignorance of what is on ground. Now, what happened in Edo State today, the judgment from Edo State, is in respect of the suspension of our former national chairman, Barrister Julius Abure, by his ward as a member of that ward. And of course, he being dissatisfied with that suspension of his membership from his ward, ran to the Edo State High Court on the 5th of April to challenge the legality or otherwise of that suspension. And of course, before he ran to court, if you can also recall, the FCT High Court on the 5th of April by 10 a.m. granted a restraining order, restraining him, the National Secretary, the National Organizing Secretary, and the National Treasurer from parade themselves as an national officer of the party. That had been on. And by law, once the person has been restrained by court, the person must not do any act in that regard, pending to when that order of the court is either vacated by that same court or set aside by an appellate court. Now, that continues. Despite that his suspension by the FCT High Court, he called for a next meeting on the 18th in Asaba. And of course, a person suspended can no longer do anything again. But out of illegality, their act of illegality, they called for next meeting, which they held in Nasaba on the 18th of April. So, and then the party saw it that, party under the leadership of Alhaji Bashir Rapapa saw it that the public might begin to think Labour Party is disobeying order of court, that we must not allow this to continue. And of course, good enough, the party next meeting took place few days thereafter. That was on the 3rd of May in Bauchi, which was widely heard or viewed by many people. And in that next meeting, because of that illegal next meeting they held in Asaba, and the next, in a unanimous decision, suspended him again, himself and everyone that participated in that next meeting, apart from the presidential candidate and his running mate and all other office candidates that won election from the last general election. They were all exempted by NEC. However, apart from those other ones, the other person, including the national chairman, NEC further took a drastic action on them and suspended them, and then constituted a committee in which the NEC asked them to appear to come and give reason why they should not be expelled from the party. As I speak to you today, that disciplinary committee is still awaiting all of them, including the former national chairman, to come and appear and give reason why they should not be expelled. Now, that is still on ground. So we have two things on ground. One, the restraining order of the FCT High Court, restraining them is still there. As I speak to you today, by law, by Sir Julius Abure, Alhaji Umar Farouk, Mr. Clement Ojuku, then Ms. Oluchi, they remain restrained as a result of the FCT High Court. That is one. Then two, the next meeting that took place in Bauchi suspended their membership. So by virtue of these two things, so what happened? That's what I was saying. I did not actually understand why they are celebrating. What happened today was a judgment of the court setting aside the decision of his ward that suspended him as a member of the ward. Unfortunately, even if there was no next suspension, what happened today suspending him, what happened today by the court, the judgment of the court today, would have only merely decided to bring him back. What that judgment would have been able to bring him back as a member of the party, not as a chairman, because there is a restraining order of the court that is still subsisting, restraining him from performing the duty of his office as a national officer. So, in nutshell, the simple explanation of it is that what just happened today, in the greatest respect, is nothing. To me, it's more like an academic exercise, because NEC, which is the highest organ of the party, has further suspended him. So his suspension from his ward, which was set aside today, is no longer of any moment, because he now has, just like a person having two issues to cross, or two rivers to cross. He has only succeeded in crossing one, and he's celebrating that he has succeeded in crossing everything. Unfortunately, that is where he is, and that is the reason I said I do not see reason why anybody should be celebrating what transpired in Benin today. There is nothing to celebrate. So I think that is the position. So as it stands today, that judgment has only set aside the suspension by his ward, not the restraining order of FCT High Court. That restraining order still remains, and then the suspension of their suspension by NEC still remains. So you can see that the judgment seems not to even make any difference for him. So he still remains suspended and remains restrained.